could be a solution. Something about the macro issue. I mean, the findings in this article are not going to resolve the Arab-Israeli conflict clearly. I'm not sure that we can even use the term the Arab-Israeli conflict so sparingly or liberally anymore, because with the involvement of Iran now, we have something that goes beyond Arabs and Israelis fighting over a piece of territory. But we'll leave that for a second, for a moment. I mean, these border disputes are basically symptoms of the greater problem of the Arab-Israeli conflict, and there have been suggestions. Let's resolve this, and this would be a springboard to resolving other things. I don't think this could work. I think that these are symptoms of the greater problem of Syrian, Israeli, Lebanese, Israeli basically state of conflict, and they will not alleviate the tension between the three countries. Can and should anything be done to reunite the village? Should we, as I have already said here, but also in my article, yes, because of the human dimension of the problem. Splitting Ghajar into two parties would basically kill the village. To remind you all, this is one single Alawi village in an area that is otherwise Sunni, Shi'i, Christian, Jewish. They have nobody but themselves. You split the village into two, you basically bring to its sociological and effective death. Historically, there were two other villages, Alawi villages in the Golan Heights in relatively close proximity, but with the Israeli occupation of the Golan Heights in '67, the residents fled together with the rest of the Arab Arab Syrian residents of the Golan Heights. Could we? This again is a very tricky question, because to ask could we have to ask who could to pursue that. I had this idea in my mind that if a conversation between Hassan Nasrallah and the Syrian president Bashar al-Assad. Here are basically Alawi Syrians requesting assistance from the president, Alawi president, that some friendly conversation between Hassan Nasrallah and Bashar al-Assad could resolve this issue, because after all, Syria would gain by including the entire village in the Golan Heights. Israel would gain by including the entire village in the Golan Heights. And I argue that Lebanon would gain from it, because Lebanese have always understood, accepted that the village is Syrian. At most, during the 2000 negotiations of the demarcation of the blue line, they said, I almost killed your computer. They said that the village expanded into Lebanese territory, and this is something that I show very clearly was wrong. I'll conclude here, and I'll open the floor for questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Asher. I think you summed it up very well when you called it a mess. It really is. I have questions about Shaba, but I'll save them. Questions?
Could you please tell us something about the actual daily lives, the impact of all these continual boundary changes and the situation as it exists today on the daily lives of the people who live in Al-Ghajar, and particularly the movement across these boundaries from one section to another of the village?
In 2000, they thought they could live with this new reality, where northern Ghajar was in Lebanon, southern Ghajar was in Israel, because there was no dividing line. Israel closed this area, made it sort of a closed military zone, and enabled the Israeli soldiers to go back and forth, including residents of the village, but they continue to provide services to the two parts of the village. The village was completely shut down following the Hezbollah abduction attempt in 2005. That was the moment where nobody could cross into the village except for the villagers themselves. But since they are Israeli citizens, they still need to get services from the state. So Israel recruited Jews from the Golan Heights who are not Israeli citizens. They are residents of their legal status is like the Palestinians in the occupied territories, more or less. And they are the ones who provide these services to the village. There have been cases of human tragedies. You know, ambulances refusing to go into the village because they would not, they're afraid. And it has become, for them, almost an impossible reality. They protested loudly in 2000. Nobody heard them. They have no political clout. You know, these are 2,000 Alawis in basically the tip, northern corner of Israel with no lobbying. So they are living, they are surviving. This is one of these, I think, cases where these small communities show how resilient they are because they have these social systems, internal, domestic, that allows them to survive. But if the village is effectively partitioned, then they would cease to exist, in my view, as a community. That's a different question. I don't mind answering it, but maybe if you want to give to, I can answer it. Oh, yes.
I would like to know.
On the microphone, please.
Sorry. I would like to know, and very enjoyable time with your maps, by the way, in which of the three of the states we've been discussing the control over the Wazani Springs now resides?
Officially, Lebanon. Lebanon, the river, you can see it probably best here. The springs are here.
Yeah.
The springs are here. And in 2001, if you followed the news, Lebanon built a pumping station to supply Arab al-Wazza, the al-Wazani community here. And it created much uproar in Israel, and Israel said that this is a casus belli, this is a cause for war. Much debates. I mean, you brought up this question, and since you asked, and this is a very important and relevant issue for us, water, as some of my colleagues here have already heard, I find it to be a little bit exaggerated in this part of the world in terms of the reasons for conflict. The pumping station that Lebanon built in al-Wazani was local. It wasn't something that would have affected the Israeli flow, the Hasbani flow into Israel, or at least wouldn't affect it dramatically. The same applies also about water in the Sheba farms. You hear it from Lebanese time and time again that Israel is in control of the Sheba farms because of water. I have to say that this is nonsense. Ask the beginning geologist. There is no one single drop of water on the Hermon. There is lots of rain and lots of snow on the Hermon. But because of the karstic formations on the Hermon, karstic rock formations, they seep very, very fast. It cannot be controlled. If you want to control the water, the rain that falls in abundance in the Hermon and the snow, you have to control al-Wazani, you have to control the Dan, you have to control the Banias. This is what you need to control. You cannot control the water, the rain falls that drop on the Hermon. I had to say this was something. In general, water is exaggerated in the importance of water. I find it to be exaggerated in this.
If you could state your name and affiliation, please.
Faras Maksad, Lebanon Renaissance Foundation. Your conclusion about returning the village to, or giving the village to Syria as a final solution, keeping it united in one form or another, does not seem to be a practical one given the current both political and legal realities on the ground. So I'm interested in hearing from you more of what you think is a practical solutions in the interim, perhaps. Is a UNIFIL designation something that makes sense? Is going back to the pre-2006 status of actually the divided village, but still some semblance of communication between the two sides of the village. I'm looking for a practical, perhaps something that could be informative to our policy friends in there.
I mean, thank you for your question. I do think that UNIFIL right now is the only alternative. I don't think, however, I would like it to be, undoing the blue line and redrawing it in the area of Ghajar. I know I'm fully aware of the obstacles. And I'm also aware of Lebanese internal politics. Yeah, no politicians with survival instincts in Lebanon today would dare saying, I'm willing to give back territories that was liberated from Israel in 2000. This would be the end of your definitely political life, maybe. I don't know. So I'm aware of that. This is why I think UNIFIL could be used in that sense. And UNIFIL, this is also a way to empower UNIFIL.